Which irons are the best for high handicappers? We've picked out 3 of our favourite game improvement irons, and today I'm going to be putting them head to head to find out the winner. So the irons that we're going to be looking at, we've got the Callaway Elite irons, the Cobra DS Adapt, and also the Wilson Dynapower. Now I've already hit loads of shots with these indoors, so I'm going to talk you guys through the data for each of the different irons, but we're also going to test them out here on the golf course. We're going to go straight in. We've got 150 yards to the pin, and I'm going to give you guys my first impressions of these irons. So first up, we've got the Wilson Dynapower. Now I would definitely say that these irons look pretty chunky at address. They've got quite a bit of offset as well, so it does just give you that really classic kind of game improvement look to them. The back of them, I think the overall finish is really nice. They've kind of taken that extra backing, that extra size, but compacted it in really nicely. You can just see the extra width on the top line as you're looking over it there. So straight away, very fast feeling off the face, quite loud as well. Now, generally with game improvement irons, we tend to find that they are a little bit fast from the face. That can make some of the shorter irons a little bit difficult to control. That did feel quite fast. It'll be interesting to see the difference with the other irons here. Onto the DS Adapt now. I would say this is it's quite similar looking from the back in the way that they've kind of packaged everything in here. Something I really struggle with on golf clubs when you're at address and you can kind of see like little etchings, little marks or names, things like that. You can see on the face of this that we've got the hot face written on the face of the golf club, which is something that I'm not necessarily a massive fan of. But in the same way as the Wilson, we've got quite a chunky top line, little bit of an offset there. Definitely the type of club that is going to make you feel confident, stood over the ball, because there's just that extra little bit of mass there. Little bit long and left with that one. Again, with the game improvement irons, for me, when you have that chunkiness and I can see the backing of it kind of extending out as I have this at address, for me it's quite easy to turn that over and get it going a little bit left. However, the last iron set that we have is the Elite irons. Now these, I would say, by quite a stretch, are a lot thinner, or they appear a lot thinner at address than the other 2 irons there. There's not so much of the chunkiness. There's also not so much of the offset, or it looks that way anyway. They are very, very shiny, very reflective, which I'm not sure I'm a massive fan of, but I do prefer how the Elites are a little bit more compact. Obviously, if you like that thicker looking club, this might be a little bit intimidating, but for me, I think the Elite do just look that little bit sleeker, a little bit cleaner up by the ball. Still a touch left, but not quite as aggressive as the DS Adapt was. Definitely say that just from the first impressions, the Elite is my favourite. I think it's packaged less like a game improvement iron, a little bit sleeker, a little bit more premium looking, which just suits my eye a lot more. Okay, so we set up a shorter shot here. Now, something that we tend to see with game improvement irons is that you don't have loads of control typically on those approach shots to the green. We tend to see that they're struggling a little bit for stopping power. So set up a 120-yard shot. I'm going to hit a 9-iron with each of the 3 clubs and just see if there's a big difference in terms of the stopping power. We're going to start off with the Dynapower here. Hopefully we can get this checking up a little bit. It's quite high and spinny, so that one's gonna fake stop. That wasn't the actual club, that was just the way that I hit it. Okay, straight away there we can see with the DS Adapt, it lands in nicely and it does just take quite a big bounce and roll on from there. Also definitely comes off very fast from the face there. Sounds like a little missile when you hit that. There's a lot of speed behind it. Let's see if we can get a little bit more check with the Elite. With that one being just a little bit thinner, got a little bit more hope for that one. So you can hear on that one that there just isn't the same amount of speed there. However, that one did look as though it checked up a little bit more. We do have all the data that I'm going to run you guys through, but just from those shots there, it seems as though there is a little bit less speed potentially coming off the Elite, but potentially a bit more control, a bit more workability there. But let's have a look at the data and see how they've performed. So taking a look into some of the numbers here, I've used a 7-iron to test these out. Now, each of the 3 7-irons that I used was a different loft, and we will talk about that. However, interestingly, all 3 of them had almost the same average carry distance, with the Cobra DS Adapt going an average of 140 yards carry with a 7-iron, the Wilson Dynapower going 142, and the Callaway Elite going 141. So very little difference there. The main difference in the distances came when we started to look at the total and how far the ball was rolling out. So the Cobra was leading in the total, giving me an average of 156 yards. This was compared to 152 for both the Wilson and Elite 7-irons. Now, the reason for this could be that the Cobra is the strongest lofted of the 3, coming in at 27 degrees for a 7-iron. So kind of unsurprising that we were seeing it roll out so much. Out on the course, I felt as though it was coming off really hot from the face, but actually the Cobra had the lowest ball speed at an average of 101. This was close though, with the Elite at 102 and the Wilson at 103. So again, very, very small differences. We did, however, see a little bit of a difference in spin. Again, the Wilson and the Elite are very, very similar. They both had an average spin rate of 5,100 for the Wilson, 5,200 for the Elite. So very, very similar. Whereas the Cobra saw a little bit of a drop off in spin at 4,800. Again, probably the reason that we were seeing a little bit more rollout with the Cobra than the other 2 7-irons. The main difference, if we're looking between the Wilson and the Elite, is just that the Elite is going a little bit higher, which I would say is pretty good in terms of looking for a bit more control. Like we said out on the course, it felt as though the Elite was a little bit easier to stop and control around the greens, probably because I am able to launch it higher. That said, it is the higher loft. The Cobra DS Adapt seems to be the kind of standout in this, in that it is going to roll you a little bit further. It's not going to spin as much, and so you might not have quite so much control on your approach shots, but you will get a little bit more distance from it. Whereas with the Wilson and the Elite, you've got a tiny drop off in total, not in the carry is the same, but you might be able to get just a little bit more control with both the Wilson and the Elite being the one that's going the highest and also being the thinnest at address. So finishing up here on the golf course, we've got a longer shot here. So I'm going to be hitting 5-iron in. Now this is the point where we're going to really start getting the forgiveness in these clubs. We've said before they've got quite a lot behind them. There's a lot of technology packed into there to basically just make these clubs easier to hit and make them really forgiving. So hopefully that's going to help me out here. Starting off with the Wilson again. So I tend to struggle a little bit with longer irons, and every time that I play with game improvement irons, I quite like hitting the longer ones because there is just a lot of forgiveness there. That one's also bounced up really nicely, so what we were saying with the shorter shots, that there isn't that much kind of grab and stop. It's quite nice on the longer ones because you're going to get a little bit more distance because the ball's going to roll out really nicely for you. Okay, so definitely didn't hit that well. It has missed the green over on that right-hand side, but the distance is still there. I thought that was going to land in this front bunker, but it's carried it. And again, that's what you're going to find with these game improvement irons. They've got a lot of technology in there so that if you do misstrike it, yes, it'll go off to the left or the right, but you shouldn't lose out on too much distance. Okay, finally we've got the Elite. This one, now that I've got used to the thicker irons over the ball, this actually looks quite kind of narrow and a little bit scary, but I'm sure we'll be all right. See, I really didn't feel as though I put that much of a different swing or strike on the first or second one. So potentially a little bit less forgiveness there with the Elite. Again, it's not in any trouble. It's up on that right-hand side, just kind of veered off a little bit. I guess it depends what you're looking for. If you need that extra kind of forgiveness, you will probably have to go to a club with a little bit more backing. Whereas if you're somebody who really likes to see that kind of sleeker club down at address, the Elite would be a really good option for that. So which iron is the best for high handicaps? Well, it depends on which category is most important to you. Starting off with looks, I would say that the Elite is my favorite, just because it's that little bit sleeker, a little bit more premium feeling to it. However, if you're a high handicapper, you might be looking for something that's a little bit more confidence inspiring over the ball. Although both the Dynapower and the DS Adapt our chunkier Game Improvement irons, overall the finish to them is still very clean. Both brands have done a great job of kind of closing in all the extra mass and extra technology behind the back of the club. And so all three of these do look really premium overall, especially for Game Improvement irons. However, for me, the Elite is just that little bit cleaner. In terms of feel and forgiveness, I found the Wilson the easiest to hit. I also felt as though it had a really nice feeling at impact. It's not super, super hot off the face like you sometimes find with Game Improvement irons. It was still fast, but with a little bit of softness to it, which I really enjoyed. All three of these irons are easy to hit. They're designed to be super forgiving, but for me, the Wilson Dynapower was just a little bit more forgiving than the other two models. Coming on to distance, as we discussed, each of these three irons has a different loft. However, they were all showing the same average carry. That said, the Cobra DS Adapt was rolling out a little bit further on average than the Elite and the Dynapower. So if you're looking for a club that is just going to go further and is just going to give you more distance in total, the Cobra DS Adapt is definitely the winner there. You just want to look out for how much control you're getting around the greens and if the ball's just going to run away from you. But if that's your main priority, then definitely the Cobra DS Adapt. In terms of price, we've got three quite varying price points for a full set from pitching wedge to 5-iron. So starting off with the DS Adapt, that is your cheapest in the lineup. So that is coming in an RRP of £689. Going on to the Dynapower, that's a little bit more expensive at $750, and then the Elite is all the way up at $999. So a little bit of a jump to come up to the Elite. I would say the argument there is it does look a little bit more premium, has a little bit more control as we found in the data, launching a bit higher and spinning up a bit more, and it might last you a little bit longer. If you're a higher handicap and you're looking to improve, over time you might want to move away from a big chunky Game Improvement iron and go down to something a little bit sleeker like the Elite. It's got loads of forgiveness to help you out initially, but you might be able to use that club for a bit longer. That said, the Wilson performed very, very similar in each of the different categories, and I found it the most forgiving out of all of them. So being quite a step down in price from the Elite, I think is really good value for money. But the DS Adapt, really impressive what you're going to get for that price point, especially if the distance is the most important thing for you. So personally, if I had to choose an overall favorite here, I think for me, control around the greens, control on those approach shots is so important. And so with the Cobra DS Adapt just rolling out that bit more, that wouldn't work for me. And then we're left with the Elite and the Wilson. I think because of how forgiving the Wilson was, I actually preferred the feel of it, even though I preferred the looks of the Elite. And coming in at that lower price point, I think for me, the Wilson Dynapower has to be the winner out of these three. Let me know down in the comments which of these you would choose. Thank you guys for watching and subscribe for more.